Hey BookTube! Check out my new mug. Actually a gift from my brother. A bunch of old books. Love it. Cheers. So, yeah, it's been a while since my last video. When I last looked, it was about 3 months. Surprised that much time had gone by, and in a way I wasn't that surprised. But life kind of got in the way, and a little bit of a reading slump. Actually, a major reading slump. Right after my last video, I mentioned I was, reading House of Leaves. It's not that I'm not enjoying the book. It's just when you have to work that hard at reading a book, flipping back and forth, flipping it upside down, jumping around to footnotes, it gets a little tiring, and I kept setting it down. So I have not quite finished it, but I do want to finish it. So I have actually read all of this and also this, because it, like I said, it makes you jump back and forth. So I have this like middle section, which isn't really that much. I mean, when you come up, look at this, look at the text, just crazy. But when you have a lot of pages that don't have a lot of words on it, it should go fast once I start picking it up and reading it. But that's the thing, I need to pick it up and read it. Coupled with, besides that kind of reading slump, it just slowed me down. I also ended up hurting myself at work. I ended up tearing my rotator cuff in my right arm. Not a major tear, just like a partial tear, but I also had, what do they call it? Adhesive capsulitis. In other words, frozen shoulder. So it happened like on a Sunday at work. By the end of the day, I couldn't even lift my arm off my lap. So I had to go to a orthopedic doctor, and he's looking at me and he's like, yeah, I think you tore something. We're going to get an MRI. My first and hopefully last ever MRI, one of those closed ones, which I heard can kind of make you a little claustrophobic. I didn't want to find out. I literally glued my eyes shut. Wish I could have glued my ears shut, because the little foam things they put in your ears is not enough to drown out the sound of an MRI. So loud. Anyway, did show I had a tear. I had to go to therapy. Been working on it, and I'm still doing therapy, but full range of motion, not too much pain for the most part, just building up strength. So that's all kind of getting back to normal. But I spent a lot of time online, like on YouTube, kind of doing a lot of research. And when I get involved in something like this, I really kind of like go down the rabbit hole. I just started looking into everything about rotator cuff injuries and rehabbing rotator cuff injuries and all sorts of strengthening exercises. And I spent more time doing that than reading. So it kept pulling me even more away from reading. So I had nothing to make a video about. And then the less I'm on here, the harder it is to get back on. And I keep saying I'm not going to do that, and then I end up doing it. Anyway, I've been having a hard time getting back into reading. I have read a few books here and there, more audiobooks than anything, because at least while I'm driving, I have to play something. I'll listen to that rather than the radio. And so at least I'm getting through books that way. But I have physically read some. I did finish also The Haunting of Ashburn House. This is also mentioned in my last video. This is by Darcy Coates. She writes a whole bunch of these sort of haunted house kind of mysteries. I really enjoy them. They're lighthearted. I should say lighthearted. They're not humorous. They're just easy to get through. They're not super scary. There's sometimes psychological things going on. You don't know if it's supernatural or not. But I really enjoyed them. This one features a young woman named Adrienne, along with her cat, inherit a house from her late aunt. The only thing she remembers of her aunt was a figure of a woman in a black dress, as her mother was taking her kind of quickly away from the home, and she never saw her again. But the woman leaves her the house at a very good time, because she's kind of like out of money and not getting paid yet from her freelance work. And so she moves into this house that's got weird things etched into wallpaper. There's no mirrors around. Kind of just people talk about the house mysteriously, like lights showing up in windows and weird notes about lighting a candle every Friday or something, because they're still out there. A lot of weird little messages left behind by her aunt. So a lot of bizarre things are happening, and I really liked it. Like I said, I really enjoy her books a lot, and I'll be showing you a few more in the coming days if I make my next book haul. That's finished. Still working on House of Leaves. I did pick up another one that this also kind of led to some of my reading slump, because I picked up Real World. This is by Natsuo Kirino. I had previously read Out by this author right there, which was phenomenal. A really great kind of murder mystery, psychological thriller type thing. Nothing supernatural in that, but that one just gripped me. This one, I couldn't wait to finish it, but I was kind of committed to it, I guess you'd say. It's about these 4 teenage girls, a young teenage boy nicknamed Worm, next door to one of them, ends up murdering his mother, and the one girl overhears it and then sees him leaving, or she overhears a commotion, I should say, then sees him leaving the house right after, and then shortly thereafter, the body's found. So she knows he was involved, but she doesn't say anything to the police. He ends up stealing her bike and her phone, and then kind of contacting her, and she, along with her other 3 friends, are kind of like pulled into like almost supporting this guy. It's just really, it was bizarre, the motivations behind it. I just couldn't get into it. A lot of weird stuff with it. I couldn't relate. I mean, I could relate. I could, but yeah, I just didn't understand their motivations to helping out this crazy character, and I'd give it a pass. If you want to read something by that author, definitely read Out. Some of the other things I read, this one, I think, I forgot if I read it as an ebook or if this was an audio book, but this is Murder at an Irish Wedding by Carleen O'Connor. I had previously read Murder in an Irish Village, which I really enjoyed. It features Siobhan, what is the clan name? I shouldn't reach like that with that shoulder. Siobhan O'Sullivan. She runs a bistro, and she's also kind of the pseudo-parent to her 5 siblings, her 5 younger siblings, because their parents died in an accident. So she's kind of struggling to get the bistro up and running and looking after all these kids. There's an older brother, but he has some issues with alcohol, so he's not always reliable. But in this particular story, she's catering the wedding of a friend, and the groom ends up murdered, and of course she's kind of sucked into this mystery, but with like a gusto. She just has this just desire to like try and solve it herself, to the point where she puts herself into some really stupid situations, dangerous situations, particularly with the responsibilities that she has as well. But I still kind of enjoyed it. I like the fact that she's kind of this headstrong young woman, and kind of plows ahead and tries to solve the crime, and I enjoyed it. So not as much as the first one, but we'll see. So I do have another one in the series, which I'll talk about next time I do a book haul. Gotta quit reaching like that. Oh, not good for the shoulder. Anyway, audiobook I listened to was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. You might know him from The Martian. I didn't read Artemis. I heard that one wasn't quite as good. So The Martian and this one I really enjoyed. I listened to both of them on audio, which just made it so much more entertaining. I'm not sure which one I liked better. I really enjoyed both. I enjoyed the humor. It's the humor that comes through the most. But really interesting characters. In this one, we follow a young man named Ryland Grace. He wakes up on board a spaceship, headed out into deep space. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know who the 2 dead companions are nearby him. He doesn't even know who he is. He seems to know some things. He seems to know some technical things. He can tell he's been some kind of a scientist and things, and he's able to kind of figure certain things out around him, but he doesn't know who he is. It takes a while for those memories to kind of come back, and through little snippets of memories, we're seeing how he got to the point where he is now, but we're also seeing the situation he's in, and we come to learn that there's some end-of-life event coming up on Earth that he is on a mission to somehow prevent, and you'll find out as the story unfolds. Like I said, I love the characters and the humor that's involved, a lot of really good sarcastic wit, and just how it's, balanced the past and the current present, and it was also sweet and touching for the events that come up. But again, a lot of humor through it. And I found myself sometimes laughing out loud when I was listening to this in the car. So I must have looked kind of nuts on the road. But highly recommend it. If you enjoyed The Martian, you'll definitely enjoy this one. Another one I listened to is The Poison Thread by Laura Purcell. She wrote The Silent Companions, which was really great, gothic kind of horror one. This again is like a Victorian gothic horror. We follow 2 main characters. Dorothea is a charitable worker. She goes to prisons and helping out with the women in women's prisons. And she also does this as a way to kind of pursue her interest in phrenology, which is like the study of the shape of the skull and how maybe it affects people's behavior. She's wondering if the shape of the skull is like what leads to some women or some people becoming criminals. So as she's there, there's this young girl named Ruth who's been arrested for murder. And she is, again, studying her skull and listening to her story. And through alternating kind of chapters, first person point of view, we get each person's story. And we find out how Ruth came to be there. She believes that through her thoughts, like her bad thoughts, have kind of traveled somehow into her sewing. And that sewing, the poison thread, has somehow caused, bad things to happen to people. And in one case, death. Now, is this woman mad? Is there some supernatural thing going on? Or is she just flat out lying and trying to pretend she's crazy? This is some of the things that our character Dorothea is trying to uncover. But there's also some weird things going on in her past as the story unfolds that was very interesting, and how these are kind of threaded together, pardon the pun. Some people might have seen this book listed as The Corset. It's an alternate cover and title for some reason. But the copy I had listened to and downloaded from Audible was The Poison Thread. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Really, really great storyline. Currently, I'll get into currently later. I have one graphic novel that I picked up. I think I came across the artist on Facebook, and he mentioned that his book was coming out, and I had it on back order for quite some time, and I just like the artwork. You see a lot with this main character of an older man and his dog. And I didn't really know or even delve too far into what the background of the story is about. But as I read it, I realized, oh, duh, it's like kind of basically current events. And I'm referring to Together by Luke Adam Hawker. And you see this, there's the old man with his dog. And I just thought it was so touching. And just pen and ink drawings. Kind of like a cityscape with a bunch of people lined up there. You might notice there, social distancing. It's basically about our time through COVID and the experiences we all had, together. We did have to kind of separate and go our own ways, but we were in like the same kind of situation, and it talks about how it brought out the good in a lot of people. It also brought out the bad in a lot of people. We see a woman like things stockpiled on top of her shopping cart, hoarding away. But it also shows like a light at the end of the tunnel, and how we, eventually will all come back together again. But I just thought it was very. Just thought this illustrations were very sweet and touching, and it never really comes out and mentions. This is like my favorite page, and then he changes and covers the dog up with his umbrella. But it never really flat out mentions the word COVID or plague or anything, but just like this situation, kind of this thing unfolds, and we were all in this, and it kind of brought us together in a way, brought out, like I said, the good in some people. And it's a very, very quick read. If you're not interested in illustrations or kind of keeping it as a keepsake, probably wouldn't be worth, putting the money in for it. But it's something I plan on hanging on to, so I went ahead and picked it up, and I enjoyed it. Like I said, I probably read it in like 5 minutes. And currently, actually not currently yet. Still got one more. I also read kind of a middle grade book. This is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I had a couple coworkers who had read this and said it was really, really good. I enjoyed it a lot. We meet a main character named Linus. He's a kind of a social worker, caseworker it's sort of I forgot the actual name of the group, but he's in charge of like looking into magical youth and the orphanages where they stay at, to make sure that they're being properly treated and cared for. He's closed down a few orphanages here and there. He's now tasked to go to this island, this particular magical island. These kids in this orphanage are of a very peculiar nature. They don't quite look like other kids. They're a little bit more outlandish. One of them is even the Antichrist. So when he finds that out, he's just like, he doesn't want to go, but, he's very methodical in his job, and they want, the best, and they send him out there. And it was just a really sweet, touching story. It's about, family and accepting people for who they are and not prejudging, and a lot of really good messages throughout the story that he comes to learn himself, or the kids you see are learning from their caretaker, Arthur Parnassus, who isn't all that he seems either. Lots of LGBTQ plus themes running throughout this. Again, a lot of humor that I found within it as well. And just very sweet kind of story, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm moving on to current, and this is actually his debut, Extraordinaries. I always want to say extraordinary. I don't know why. Does anybody else pronounce the word extraordinary? Extraordinaries, in this case, by T.J. Klune. His debut novel about a world where apparently there are people with superpowers. And Nicholas Bell, he's a high school student. He's gay. He has ADHD. He loves to write fan fiction. He has a small little knit group of friends. His best friend Seth, who I think he secretly maybe has a crush on, but he really has a crush on Shadowstar, who happens to be extraordinary. I said it correctly this time. He battles, he's got some arch nemesis, I forgot the name of him now, but he battles crime and stuff like that, and so he writes fan fiction about it, and yeah, it's again, a lot of humor within his books, a lot of sweet stories, lots of LGBTQ themes going through it as well, and his desire is to become an extraordinary, so maybe Shadowstar will fall in love with him, I don't know, yeah, we'll see where that goes. But I'm really, really enjoying the stories so far. Like I said, I like the first one, well, The House in the Cerulean Sea, so much that I decided to check out some of his other works and went back on this one. There's a newer one out that I'm going to look into as well soon, probably as soon as I finish this one. But really enjoying that. So that's my current audiobook, is Extraordinaries. My current physical book, besides trying to finish off House of Leaves, is The Midnight Palace by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This is one of his younger reader stories. He is the author of the Shadow of the Wind series, like a group of 4 books kind of tied together. Not a direct series, you could kind of read them on their own, but it really lends itself to reading them all together. That is like one of my favorite group of books, and I decided to check out his books that he originally wrote. He originally wrote these for young readers, and The Prince of Mist was one of the first ones I read. They're kind of loosely based as a trilogy. I'm not using that arm. Hang on, let me spin around here. This will be the last one, The Watcher in the Shadows. But they have like kind of a similar feel to them, but I wouldn't say they're a trilogy in any way, because they're all different characters. But I'm not enjoying this one quite as much as The Prince of Mist. It's dragging out a little bit for me, and I actually have just about right there that much left to read. This part here is just a prequel to that book. So I'm nearly done, but it's basically a story about revenge. This mysterious character is out to kill these 2 children, but they're kind of beyond his reach. One, he doesn't know where it is, and the other one is at an orphanage, he suspects anyway, and that child won't be kind of out of the orphanage until he reaches a certain age, and he promises to be back. As the story unfolds, this young boy named Ben is going to come to learn about his past and the danger that awaits him, about family he didn't know he had. And some things are foreshadowed and some things are rather obvious. But then, I don't know, there's some troubling aspects to this person that's trying to kill or do something to the kids that... I don't know. I'm finding it a little difficult. Yeah, I don't know. It's an ancient terror. It's a bit magical in a way, but it's not that bothers me. It's just who this particular person is. I'll leave it at that. But like I said, I'm not enjoying it quite as much as all the other books that I've read by him, so it's a little bit slower going, but not super bad. I'd probably give it on average like a 3-star. But I'm hoping to finish that one soon. I'm not sure what I'm going to read after that physically. Like I said, I'm just starting to snowball back into reading some of the, I think T.J. Klune, just the humor and the lightheartedness of it is getting me back into the enjoyment of reading. So that's helping tremendously. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm sorry for the long delay in videos. A little rusty, a little out of practice. But next up is probably going to be this massive book haul that's been accumulating for quite some time. Months and months, as a matter of fact. And I don't feel too bad about accumulating that many books, even though I haven't been reading a whole lot, because I've also done a lot of unhauling. I probably should have filmed a lot of that, but there's basically a lot of books that I have had sitting on shelves, and I'm not much of a rereader. I have, there's too many things I want to read that I haven't read yet. So I figure I'm just sitting on them. I might as well give someone else the enjoyment of reading them. So I've gotten rid of a whole bunch of books lately. Yeah, make room for more. But anyway, I've still got to read these. These you've probably been seeing sitting on my shelves here for quite some time. So I need to start getting back more into reading, and hopefully I will be a little bit more of a regular presence back on here. Yeah, and thank you if you guys have still stuck around, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.